Good evening, everybody. This is Miss Audrey. You are in Miss Audrey's house on a beautiful and bright and sunny but freezing cold Saturday morning here in Las Vegas. My guest tonight is Julie Sue Parker, somebody that I've known for a couple of years now, and have learned to really deeply appreciate and have developed a great and abiding love for. And you can see her beautiful face on the screen right now. How are you, Julie?
I am really good, and it's about 60 degrees here in Dayton, Ohio.
Oh, and I'm complaining about the weather here. You guys are getting snow, aren't you?
Well, the snow's about melted. There's not much left.
Okay, so it's actually warmed up a bit on your end.
For today.
For today, yeah. Oh, well, everybody, Julie Sue Parker is a trans woman who began to become aware that she was different at an early age. In 1999, she became aware that she was not alone and visited a local transgender support group called Crossport, and you can find them at www.crossport.org, crossport.org. Julie was excited about her discovery, but her wife was not supportive at all. Julie elected to purge off her identity at the end of 2001 and focused on professional growth and building her own company as a replacement. As a result, she alienated her family, ran up a lot of debt due to business failure, and was very depressed. It appeared that the drive to climb the corporate ladder was no substitute for what was missing inside. In 2007, Julie moved her family to the El Segundo, California area out of frustration with work and a desire to be in LA. In hindsight, she believes that this was a very selfish move, giving no consideration to her family. Julie and her family lived in the LA area for 18 months, and things did not go well. Her wife was very depressed, money was a challenge, and Julie was living a secret life. At the end of 2008, Julie moved her wife and children back to Dayton, Ohio, where she stayed in the while she stayed in the LA area. During that time, Julie worked to find a job back in Dayton. During this time, she was able to experience being herself while living alone in LA. Julie discovered and then quickly joined Metropolitan Community Church of Los Angeles and made many good friends who were able to help her on her journey. The separation from her wife and family made Julie realize that she had to make a decision as to whether to stay married by returning to Dayton or start a new and different life in LA. In the end, Julie decided to return to Dayton, Ohio, and accepted a job at Booz Allen Hamilton. She told her friends at MCC LA her intention to return to Dayton and her plans to tell a pastor at the local Baptist church her struggle with being transgendered. Over the last 3 years, Julie has lived in Dayton, Ohio, living two separate lives, and that's not always been easy. She joined Toastmasters International and is now the president of the Dayton United Communicators Toastmaster Club. And you can find them at http://1694.toastmastersclubs.org. Since joining Toastmasters, Julie has earned 2 additional Competent Communicator Awards, 1 additional Bronze Award, an additional Commitment Leader Award, as well as being asked to serve as area governor. Her success in Toastmasters has built self-confidence, but has also added to her stress and pain. During this interview, Julie will discuss her struggles with having 2 identities and her hopes for the future. So let's get started and talk about you, Julie. I've known you for a few years now, and I've always known you as Julie. However, Julie is, how do I explain that? Julie is who you are, but it's not who you were born as. Is that accurate?
I think that is a very challenging question. I'll probably be going
I'm not getting any sound from him. There we go.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Uh,
Yes, I can.
okay.
Hello?
That's. Hello? Can you hear me? Did you lose me? Did you
Yes, I
lose me?
can.
Okay.
Nope, I got you.
That's a
Nope,
very
I'm here.
that's a very challenging question. At an early age, I did notice something was different. I liked wearing my sister's dress, and I really loved being Julie. But it seems that one of the challenges I have is that I also love my children, and I love my wife, and it's just a difficult life to have. Because on one side I enjoy being Julie, but yet I'm still tied to being my other person.
Okay. And so, now, for those who know the difference between a trans woman and a trans man and a transgendered person, they're all basically the same. What the difference is not the birth gender, it's the target gender.
That's absolutely
And
correct.
of course, you were born male, but your target gender is female, basically meaning that for lack of a better way of more correct way of putting it, you were a woman, discovered that you were a woman, even though you had a man's body.
Yes, I feel that way many times.
Okay, all right. And so your move to LA, your initial move to Los Angeles, was precipitated by what? Was it the need to be more yourself as Julie, or was it an opportunity
Well,
seeking move?
one of the challenges was that I purged off being Julie back around 2002, and I thought I would replace that with building leadership skills and being involved in real estate, and I just it does not replace that desire to be Julie. So when I got frustrated at work and I made that phone call to talk to a friend in
Okay.
Los Angeles about working out there, I really wanted to discover who Julie was, and I felt that if I was in Los Angeles, I'd be able to find people to help me on that journey. And I was absolutely right.
Okay. And you did do that.
Yes, I did.
And unfortunately, it worked for you.
I
It worked for
remember
you in a lot of ways, but it didn't work for your wife and family.
that is exactly correct. I remember that when we got to Los Angeles, or at least when I got to Los Angeles, I was able to connect very quickly with people that accept transgender people back in 2007. But when my family arrived, my wife had a lot of trouble with living in Los Angeles. She didn't like how crowded it was. We had financial challenges, and she wanted to return back to Dayton, Ohio. So what I
I
had
see.
done, so what I had done is I essentially moved my family to Dayton, Ohio while I stayed here in Los Angeles. And for the first time in my life, I had the opportunity to be Julie as much as I wanted to be. I joined Metropolitan Community Church Los Angeles. I joined the women's group. I joined the choir. I developed lots of friends, including yourself.
Yes.
But the problem was is that I could not live with the idea of walking away from my family. And I remember walking down the steps of the Toyota Center saying, I will never leave Los Angeles. But I could also, on the other side of me, said, I have to be with my family. I have to be with my children. And I finally came to the conclusion that I had to return to Dayton, Ohio to be with my kids. And one of the challenges was is that when I sat down with a friend of mine that is in Toastmasters and I showed her my picture, she asked me, who is this? And I said, this is me. And then she looked at the picture and said, this answers a lot of questions for me and you have a difficult choice. And then she made the comment and said, why don't you be Julie in Toastmasters and then your other self in all other parts of your life? And that's, to some extent, worked for me. Because when I'm not Julie, I always look forward to being Julie. But when I'm Julie, I'm not so excited about not being myself.
Okay. And so you feel that Julie is who you really are. Julie is your real self.
You know, almost with emotions, you sometimes go back and forth on that. At times I would agree with you, but the more I get involved with my children, and the more I get involved with supporting my children's band and things, that draw to be my other self strengthens because I don't have my family when I'm Julie. And that is
Ah,
one of the most difficult things that I have. And it's
I
pushed
can't
me to
even
the
imagine
brink.
how I can't even imagine how difficult that must be.
It's terrible. I know I went to a ball game to see my son play in the pep band. We were playing another high school, and I just loved being with him. And I thought about all the things I'm involved with my kids because I've really invested in them. But then I also have this other life as Julie, which I also love and love. In fact, I was so excited to come out to this interview with you. I started my day at about 7 a.m. once I left the house to transition to who you see right now. I drove to another university, which is the uh, the gosh, I forgot the name of this university. I guess I'm kind of scatterbrained this morning. It's the well the Wright University, Wright State University is where I'm at right now. But I struggle with this so much because on one side I always dream about being Julie Sue Parker, and I put so much effort into being Julie. But I also love my children dearly, and I love my wife dearly. So I'm stuck in this on this fence post between two worlds, wanting to be Julie and enjoying everything about being a woman, but also loving being with my kids and my friends. And it seems like the longer I sit on the fence, it just gets harder. It doesn't get easier.
Ah. You know, you would think that at some point it would, but you have some really difficult choices that you have to make. And it requires not only a lot of thought, but a lot of effort.
It definitely does. I mean, I have so many things I deal with. I deal with my job, which is very important. I deal with my investments that I have. I spend time with my four children. I had lunch with my oldest son yesterday. And then in the evening I went to a game that my other son had, and then I spent time with my two youngest children at home. Yesterday.
Okay.
So
It sounds like it can become exhausting
it
at
can be
times.
exhausting at times, but I always make it a point to try to go to bed around 10 o'clock, and then and try to get up around 5:30. And I really put a lot of
Okay.
emphasis on having a good diet. And part of my
Good.
motivation for a good diet is I like looking good, and I like being able to
Yes.
move around quickly if I want to.
Yes. And this is one thing about Julie Sue Parker. You're a skinny bitch, and you have similar tastes to me in clothing, and you always look really good.
It's a lot of work. I've been trying to shed
Yes, it
off
is.
just trying to shed off a couple pounds that I picked up around Christmas. And I have this gorgeous outfit that I really like wearing, but it's really tight right now. I wear a corset to pull my waist in a little bit, and I had to lace it a little bit tighter to get this pair of stretch pants that I have on to fit. So either I
Okay.
have to move up to a bigger size, or lose a little bit of weight, or just suffer with the pain of having tight clothing on.
Well, you know what? It's more work, but it's better for you in the long run to drop the pounds. I'm having that little problem right now too. So let's talk about living in Dayton. You moved back to Dayton in 2009?
That's correct. It was August of 2009,
Yes,
and I
2009.
remember that day so vividly of getting on the bus to go to the LAX terminal to fly back here. And I actually cried that night as I went to bed because I was happy to be with
Did
my
you?
family, but I was so sad to leave Los Angeles.
Well, I for one, and I know several other people that are mutual friends who were sad to see you go as well. You and I had some interesting conversations. And just as a side note, everyone, Julie is very intelligent. Julie she's got smarticles, I like to call them. Um, she's one of my favorite geeks in the whole wide world. And you know, Miss Audrey loves geeks. Um, and so we always have these interesting conversations. We're on opposite sides of the political spectrum, and that's been a great thing for both of us because we both learned a bit about the other's point of view. And we've learned to do that with love and appreciation. And Julie's been a big part of my openness to the more conservative movement. You know, I'm a diehard liberal, and sometimes that's very difficult when you're talking to someone who is not so liberal. But Julie and I found common ground, which has always been wonderful. It's been a wonderful experience for me because it gives me an opportunity to open my own mind to some of the questions that people on the more conservative end of the spectrum have about people like me. And it's answered questions that people like me have for folks on the more conservative end of the spectrum. It's been wonderful. And I'm glad that we remained friends, even though you're so far away now.
You know, one interesting thing, I just
So
can't
let's
help
talk
saying
some
this.
more about living. Uh-huh.
One of the things that's going to tell you one of the big challenges we have in Washington is this thing called corruption, where on one side of the spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
people in leadership want to placate the American people and give them things that they want and meet the needs of lobbyists. But one of the interesting things is that ethics in government is a big challenge. A friend of mine was telling me that
Yes.
one of our president's nominees had voted to raise the income of the office that he's being nominated to take. And just things like that. I'm not sure on the
Interesting.
specifics of that. But one of the things that we have a problem with is widespread corruption in our government. One of the reasons why we have this
Yes.
trillion-dollar deficit is not necessarily because we want to spend the money on good things, but how we spend that money. And I imagine that if you had a bipartisan commission that could simply strip out things that really weren't needed objectively, I just wonder how much better things would be, because how many things are we funding that really don't help people? And
Right.
there's no way I'm going to be able to get here, because I do believe and I agree with you that providing people with some level of health care is a good idea. Because if you don't give people health care, when they begin to have issues, it actually ends up costing you more because the problem gets more
Yes.
severe and they end up in an emergency room. So we really
Yes.
need to address that situation. We have an issue with Social Security where we promise people they'll be able to retire in their old age. Well, the problem is the amount of people working, pool of working people and the people retired is getting out of balance, which means you're going to have to cut back on benefits or raise the point at which you can retire to make the system salvageable. So what you have to do is you have to make fairly hard cuts in all these areas. And yes, you're probably going to have to raise taxes on the rich. But the danger is if you raise taxes too much, you end up slowing the economy.
Right.
And the really sad part about it is, why couldn't you have economists come out with a solution and trust them in their decisions and implement a system that works? But that'll never happen because lobbyists push for what they want. They give politicians money to push their ways. And we're not going to come up with a sensible solution. We're going to get a solution that we get based on who pushes the hardest. And
Yes.
regardless of whether or not you're liberal or conservative, whatever label you want, we're we're stuck with a system that is in a way broken.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's something that we agree on. Our government does tend to be penny wise and pound foolish.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
But of course, here's one idea though. Instead of saying the rich should pay more, why don't you figure out how to become rich?
Um, I've been working on that. It's not working out real well for me just yet, but eventually, my goal is to be one of the 1%.
Now, I'll tell you a story I recently did. I've done some speeches on financial balance sheets. I'm doing a net worth statement every month to see how you're doing. And I ran into some problems with some of my properties. So I did a financial statement for one of my properties for last year, and I noticed I lost about $3,000 in that property last year. I pumped about $8,000 into that property probably in 2010 to renovate it. And it suddenly occurred to me how stupid I am, that this property's been losing money for years and years and years, and it's probably never going to get better anytime soon. So I finally concluded that I should just get rid of it. And I talked to my accountant and found out this thing called depreciation doesn't compensate me for my losses.
Uh-huh.
The amount of money I write off my taxes for losses doesn't compensate me for my losses. I am better off walking away. And I could have walked away in 2008, but I didn't, because I paid $117,000 for this property and someone offered me $89,000 and my ego wouldn't handle that. I wanted my money back. So instead of cutting my losses right then and there, I probably lost maybe an additional $15,000 on top of what I already lost in 4 years. So is that very smart? But we always can realize that we can change our ways and do the right thing. So I'm going to be getting rid of that property as soon as I can. Because when you look at how I've improved my balance sheets and I've dug myself out of this huge hole, it looks pretty impressive. But I could have done better. I could have done a lot better.
Okay.
And that's one of my frustrations, and I think my desire to be Julie drives me to do better financially, because I know that if I can ever get out of debt, I have more options.
Yes.
If I can ever amass more investments that produce residual cash for me, which means I don't have to work to get the money just shows up.
Right.
Then it pushes me closer to having freedom, to where I can make my own choices. If I had more money, I could just have flown out to Las Vegas to do this interview in person instead of having to do it over the internet, which would have been so much more fun.
Yeah, and then we could have hit the strip and walked around for a while.
Oh, that would have been great.
But that's for another time, unfortunately. So let's talk some more about your life as Julie. Now, I don't remember if there is a Metropolitan Community Church in Dayton.
There is.
However, you've chosen to go to join a different church. You joined a Baptist church there. Is that correct?
That is correct. That my wife, when she went back here, one of her tasks was to find a church, and she settled on a Southern Baptist church that is not too far from her house. And I had visited there a couple times, and the people there were very friendly. And I felt that what I wanted to do was I wanted to simply be very honest with the pastor about being transgender when I got there. And several of my friends thought I was absolutely crazy, and perhaps they were right. But the way it played out was that I sat down with him at breakfast, and I told him, I have something I want to tell you. I have a second identity as Julie Sue Parker, and I'd rather be a girl than a boy. And I just want you to be aware of that. And I could not believe I said those words, because those are things I wasn't even willing to admit to myself. Sometimes your subconscious knows things that you don't know, but you won't let your subconscious speak, and you allow your rational mind to suppress that which you truly feel inside. And the effect of that was I immediately was asked to not participate in the Awareness program, which is an educational program for children. So the effect I've had at that church is that they really don't want me involved in any sort of ministry because I'm transgender. And I think the reason why that happens is because Southern Baptists believe that being gay or transgender is simply sin that people need to repent of. That what's expected is you
Yes.
simply suck it up, you carry your cross, and you simply deny that which you really feel you are, and then just suck it up and do the right thing. And I went to counseling with a biblically based counselor to help work through these things, and he challenged me to say, can you be open to the idea that this might be sin? And my definition of sin is doing things that hurt other people. So I could definitely classify that who I am and what I am could be sinful, because it obviously does not have a good impact on my wife.
Right.
So I decided to purge off being Julie myself, probably in the summer of 2010. And I remember going and seeing the individual I've been counseling with, and they told him this decision. He started praising the Lord for that. And how I felt inside is I kind of felt like I'm not being judgmental when I say this. I hope people don't see it that way. I just felt more like a trophy. And I really felt like I wasn't understood. The objective was to get me to repent, but not understand what's going on inside. And it wasn't. And then I also told the pastor the same thing, and I still felt so empty and so alone. And it wasn't within a week that I was headed to Kroger's, and my subconscious mind spoke up, and I was headed 90 miles an hour into a curb.
Oh, wow, honey.
And that isn't the only time that I've moved more towards suicide. Instead of, it isn't, well, gee, let me go figure out how to kill myself. Is it going to be with a car? Is it going to be with a motorcycle? Can I get a gun and just shoot myself, maybe poison? It's more of, you get so depressed and so stressed that your subconscious mind takes over and drives you to do things very dangerous. But that was not the first time this has happened. After I regained my sanity, I drove to Kroger's about 20 miles an hour the rest of the way, thinking, what am I doing? And a friend of mine that we have in common, Amy, told me that suicide is the most selfish thing you can do because you hurt your children so much. And if the point of sacrifice is because of my family, then why would you ever want to commit suicide? Because now you lose all opportunity to ever be yourself. It's
Right.
just over. And
Yes.
one of the other interesting things is as my other self, I ride a motorcycle. And I've gotten very good at riding that motorcycle. But at what price? Because I pushed myself really, really hard to learn a lot of skills. I remember jumping on the interstate highway the first week I had it riding to work, scared to death. I remember riding in the rain, wondering if I would survive. I'm scared to death. I have cars around me. You can't see motorcycles when the sun's out.
Right.
How about when you have a pounding rain and there's a motorcyclist in front of you that's scared?
Yeah. It's hard enough to see the front of your own car when it's raining like that.
Oh, yes, it is. But these are things that I've just had to deal with and try to navigate through. But it's not. But I think what keeps me going is the future. I have a son in college, and I'm very excited that he's successful. I have a son that's a junior, and he's doing well, and I have 2 other children, and I want to raise these kids and help them have a successful life. So many times it's them that keep me going. And I'm sorry if I get so emotional about this, but
it's quite all right, honey. It's quite all right.
Okay.
And the one thing
solve the problem for me, though.
It doesn't. It doesn't, and it's a heavy burden to carry. But it's all about the choices that you make. Unfortunately, in your case, because you get benefits on both ends of who you are, being Julie and being not Julie, that it's very difficult to meet in the middle, because if you meet in the middle, you lose on both ends. So one thing I've always admired about you, every conversation that you and I have ever had, we've talked about your children. And there's no doubt in my mind, and anyone who's ever met you and just sat and talked with you for a few moments how much you love your children. And so I have to ask, what do your children know about Julie? And are they okay with what they know?
Well, you know, it's a really interesting thing, because when I was seeing another counselor, the counselor warned me that I might want to talk to my kids my wife does, because if I talk to them first, I have the opportunity to paint the picture myself of who I am. And I took my two oldest boys one at a time to McDonald's and said, I just want to tell you that I have a second identity as Julie Sue Parker. And the oldest son did not take that very well. And he one time confronted me and said, what are you doing? But I kind of just stopped talking about being Julie, and it kind of went away. My second son is kind of indifferent about it. And whenever I talk about things, he just doesn't say a lot of things back. My third son is probably oblivious. My daughter knows.
Okay.
In fact, my daughter one time said to me, Dad, you need to stop trying to be a girl.
And she's how old?
She's 7.
Okay. That's the way 7-year-olds think. You know, it's either one thing or another.
Well, I'm excited that she knows, because I was combing her hair, and I said, I wish I had hair like yours. And it says, Dad, you need to stop wanting to be a girl.
Okay. And what was your response to that?
I said, why? and whenever we play video games, I always want to be the girl. And
Okay.
I've really gotten really comfortable with these kind of interactions. So there's a slow progression of movement saying, I want people to be comfortable with me being Julie. And the other side of that is that in people in Toastmasters, I've really never said that I'm transgender to them. I just show up and I give speeches and I move into leadership positions. I think I have like 65 videos published right now that I've done, and many of those in Toastmasters. And
Yes.
I had a friend in Toastmasters want to have breakfast with me to talk about her educational program. And during the conversation, I told her about being transgender. I told her about having children. She didn't even know I had children.
Oh, wow.
Because we have a relationship where I'm more free to tell you things. But in Toastmasters, because I'm not open to talking about being transgender, I'm almost like on the opposite side of the fence, looking back, which is an interesting thing. And she was okay with me being transgender because I told her about being married, about having kids, my wife rejecting me being transgender. Her comment was as well, Julie, I only know you as you, and this makes no difference. We're still great friends. But whenever I open up to people, but it's still scary, because is that really true? Will it change our relationship if I tell people?
You know, I've always been of the mindset. I've always been of the mindset that good or bad, the relationship always changes in some way. You're either more appreciated or you're less appreciated. I know when I first met you, you know, I'd seen you in service a couple of times, and you were wearing this beautiful dress that I really liked, and so I commented on the dress, and I think it was shortly after that you started coming to the women's group meetings.
Yes.
And we became fairly close, and I've always really appreciated that because you've helped me learn a lot. And I am like that other person. I've only ever known you as Julie. I've never known you as not Julie. So all of my interactions with you, my face-to-face interactions anyway, has always been Audrey and Julie. Although a couple of times when we've talked on the phone, it's been Audrey and not Julie. And it's interesting to note that I can always tell the difference when I'm talking to Julie and I'm talking to not Julie.
Really?
So yeah, I can always tell the difference, and in the end, it never matters to me which person I'm talking to. It's just the same person that I love that happens to have, two um, diametrically opposite people living inside her. And I can appreciate your struggle. We know between us, we know a number of other trans women and trans men that we've been to church with. And we have a similar philosophy on Christianity um, and LGBT issues. Having both been members of Metropolitan Community Church of Los Angeles. Oh, and by the way, number one, we bought a new building and moved into it, and NCCLA is now Founders Church. So that's a little side note about that particular congregation. But I've never really cared who you are. Or what name you go by. And that I think is one of the advantages of being a member of that particular church, is that you reach the point where you don't really care which person you're talking to. What you care about is the person in front of you, regardless of the name that's attached. But other people are not quite so accepting and quite so flexible about who you are. You are still having a really difficult time with living your life as Julie in Dayton, and you've received quite a bit of rejection both in a church and at home being Julie.
Well, they do let me cut the grass.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Well, yes, the good old grass ministry. Well, the lawn appreciates you anyway.
But in a way, I don't want to be judgmental. I really don't, because that's where that church is. They're not ready to accept me. They're not there, and that's one of the things about dealing with people, is that perhaps it's better to accept them as who they are, and know that the decisions they make are grounded in who they are.
Yes.
And somehow simply deal with the reality of that and just not take it personally. And try to get the emotions out of it, because I'm at that church for my children.
Yes, even when we don't consider.
And it would be nice to be more accepted, but I have to realize that I'm there for my children. And just fill the role that I have and not expect more, because nothing more is going to be there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you ever at any point expect to be able to live your life full time as Julie?
That's one of those dreams that's out there, but it's clouded so much by the reality of who I am today, and my goal of taking care of my children. And there isn't a day where I rerun the tapes. Like, what if I could go back to when I left college? What decisions would I make if I knew what I know now from that time forward? And how would my life be different? But the problem with that tape so many times is I don't want to wish my children into non-existence either.
Right.
Because you ever talk about if you could go back in time and make different decisions? Well, what about all the people you've impacted in a positive way? That would never have happened. Of course, there's other things that would happen in a positive way. But it's almost like when you create something, do you ever want to uncreate it?
Right.
And that's why, even though I think about things like that, and I wonder how things would have been different if I made different choices, the reality is that doesn't happen. And what the better thing is to look forward and say, what am I going to do from here forward, and not look back. And not have any resentment, and not be upset with anyone and saying, The Lord has given me a life and has allowed me to exist, and I've had so many good things happen. But where do I want to go from here? How do I move forward with who I am and what I want to be?
Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk a bit about your future. What can we expect from Julie Sue Parker in the future?
Well, I imagine probably within 2 years or so, I should clear all consumer debt and eliminate it. That's one of my goals. I probably also want to buy more investment property
Uh-huh.
to grow my wealth. I want to serve as an area governor in Toastmasters. I want to see my son graduate from college, and it's almost like being Julie more than I am is on hold.
Okay.
And I just really can't see beyond those things. And the other problem is, you notice I haven't said much about my wife during this interview at all
That's right. And I was about to ask you.
because
Um,
she hates me.
she hates Julie.
Yes, and you know how you talked about you can always tell who you're talking to?
Yes.
Since you're talking to Julie, my wife hates me
Uh,
and wishes I didn't exist. So it's difficult for me to talk to my wife when I'm Julie.
mm-hmm. um, because she knows you as not Julie,
And that's right.
and the person that she believes herself to have married is not Julie.
That's absolutely correct.
And so it's got to be really difficult for her to accept that the person that she thought she married has someone else living inside them, someone that
That is correct as well.
someone that she did not and was not necessarily willing to create a relationship with. You and I have had this conversation about her beliefs, and she believes in the biblical interpretation that says that um, being Julie is is sinful. And when you add to that your own personal interpretation of sin, which we've just discussed a few moments ago, um, I can understand a lot of where your conflict originates from. But my own personal selfish preference is to see you fully as Julie. I'd like to meet not Julie once or twice, and have a sit down dinner with her and just be Audrey and not Julie. But I also want to see Julie living as a whole person and not having all these conflicts that are, I don't know how you do it. And honestly, we have there's someone that we mutually know who went through a similar conflict and it did not end well for her. Christine Daniels, who was born as Mike Penner, could no longer handle the stress and the depression that comes along with being a trans woman who is married. And she ended her life. And I never want to see that happen to anyone, but it is the truth of the situation that, and as you've spoken about a few moments ago, it can drive, being transgendered can drive you to want to end it because it is so stressful and it is such a hard life to live. And you have to go through so many emotional and spiritual and mental changes constantly, it seems like. But we also know at least a few trans women who have completely completely transitioned, and who are now not just living their lives as women, but they have become women. And so we know that there is also another option. And so my question to you is do you foresee at any point in the future that you might reach the point where you're comfortable transitioning completely?
I think for that to happen, I would have to eliminate the obstacle preventing that, which is my family's rejection, especially my wife's. So in a way, this might sound really strange, but I'm probably more faithful to my wife because I'm agreeable to live in this difficult situation. It would have been so easy to simply never return. I mean, I had my family in Dayton, Ohio. I had them in a house. I had good income in Los Angeles. I had good friends. I could have taken the easy way out and said I'm not returning. But you talk about that narrow road. You know, in a
Yes.
way, I guess I've chosen that narrow road, but it's just not as narrow as some people would like it to be.
Well, you know that, and that's part of the journey for you. And each trans person's journey is different. I mean, there's always those similarities. Everyone has them. There are those things that you have in common with other transgendered individuals, but outside of that, each journey is separate. But what I want, the primary reason I wanted to talk with you was because we know so many transgendered people. And we both know that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of transgendered individuals out in society that we don't know. And, you know, your story is one of hope. It's a very hopeful story, at least from my perspective. Even though you do go through a lot living life as Julie and then living life as not Julie, I understand that there can be a middle road. It's a tough road to hoe, but you know, you make your choices about what you wish to do, and then you live with the consequences of the choices that you make. And I think that's something that a lot of people forget, especially when as in Christine's story,
Yes.
you think you've run out of options. You are one person who is constantly looking at the options, and instead of rejecting them, deciding that it's too much work or it's too hard, it's too stressful, it's too painful, you've chosen to, you know, suck it up and walk that narrow road. I can only admire you for that, because I don't think I could do it. Not being a trans woman, being what's called a real girl, which is a term that I really hate. I can't imagine being in a situation where I had to constantly figure out who I am, dependent upon a person outside of me. I have to figure out who I'm going to be for that person. And know that who I'm going to be may be someone that person rejects. Being comfortable with making that decision and finding a way to live through that. I can't help but admire you, Julie Sue Parker.
Thank you,
I really
Audrey.
can't. Now, on to another subject. You told me at one point that you were thinking about getting your ears pierced.
You know, I have clip-on earrings right now, but there's so many more options with pierced earrings because they don't hurt as much, and that would also be another statement that I really want to be Julie. If I would actually get my ears pierced, and I know that not me would be okay at work with having pierced ears, but that would send a signal to the home front that might not be accepted
Yes.
well, and that's just another one of those gates that eventually I would like to get my ears pierced. But it's more of a question of when.
Okay.
Because I know that, for instance, I had some hooped earrings that you've probably seen that I've had before, but I lost one. So now to replace those, I'd have to go find them on eBay and have them reshipped. And a lot of times I've had to put kind of little glue on the earrings to make sure they don't fall off. But if they were
Right.
pierced, I would just stick them in the hole and that would be it, and they wouldn't fall off.
Right.
So that's just one of those things about feeling pretty, wearing earrings. And whenever I see real women, and I look at their real hair and their real pierced ears and their nice looking shoes, I kind of desire to be those individuals. I mean, I
Uh-huh.
saw several ladies walking out of the game last night, and I admired their hair, and I looked at their hair and how they dealt with it. And by the way, this hair is new and it's long, and I still haven't figured out how to deal with it. I was struggling with the water fountain because I had my purse and I had my computer bag and I had a tripod that I had, and I went to get something to drink, and the hair got in the water, and my hair got more of the water than me, and I thought, okay, that didn't go really well. So I bought myself a bottle of water to drink because
Uh-huh.
it was just too much of a deal to have to put everything down and pull my hair out of the way to get a drink of water.
Uh-huh.
But I really do like long hair. I think it
And you
looks
look good in long
nice,
hair.
and I just like having it and having it in your eyes and in your mouth and having
Yes.
to deal with all those challenges of long hair. I I still like it.
Mm-hmm.
Some reasons with my other self, I never have to worry about hair because I frankly don't have any. I have very little hair naturally.
Well, you look good as a blonde.
Well, thank you.
Oh, well, before we close up, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about yourself, Julie?
One thing I've noticed is that if you commit yourself to being excellent in what you do, it'll make the transition a lot easier when it's time.
Okay.
Because you'll have that respect. So having people respect you and then sharing something that's different is a lot better than people not respecting you and showing something different. And
Understood.
that's more a philosophical thing is be excellent in everything you do. And that way when it's time to be different, they'll accept you more. So
Okay. Well, I love and accept you for who you are. Julie and not Julie, I love you both.
I appreciate that.
Well, I've been hanging on to you for close to an hour now. And I know you've got other things that you have to do today, some of which involve your kids.
Yes.
And so I'm going to go ahead and let you go and close out the show. And end it with, again, my everlasting love for you and my respect for who you are. And my amazement at how you are able to float between these two worlds, seemingly effortlessly. Although we both know that there is quite a bit of effort into it.
To go to a 1 hour Toastmaster meeting requires a 4 hour commitment on my part.
To get dressed and then to change back to not Julie.
Yes, and there has to be a little buffer in there to get me through the transition. I mean,
okay.
even responding to imagine people changing their gender reference to you during the day, to where you're one gender during one part of the day, and then suddenly you're a different gender during the other part of the day. And imagine people referring to you by a different name. Can you see
Yes.
how that can get confusing?
And again, I don't know how you do it. I honestly don't know how you do it. I have to admire your ability to do that. And I admire it because I know of how much difficulty is behind it, how much effort is behind it. You've given me a bigger appreciation for people in my life, for the people in my life and the things that they deal with.
I know I've really enjoyed having you as a friend, and you've helped me through difficult times. And I will tell you that a lot of my friends I have in Los Angeles are the people that help me keep going, because I don't have any transgender friends that I actually interact with at this time. And one of the big challenges is simply scheduling, because a lot of times people who are transgender do things in the evening, and that time's for my family. So I have no ability to connect with them. And I appreciate you getting up early in the morning to do this interview, because Saturday mornings my children and my family are asleep. So this is my opportunity to be Julie in the mornings. So it's kind of these brief moments before after work at my secret closet that I have at a storage facility, or Saturday mornings. And maybe if I go on a trip somewhere, I can be Julie for a more long period of time.
Well, you know, I do live in Las Vegas now.
I need to go visit sometime. That's why I need to get my debt paid off.
Yes. Yes, I'm just so amazed at your focus. But you know, you are one of my favorite groups of people. You're a geek, and I love my geeks. I love smart people. I love being around them, and you know, having spent my entire life being geek light.
You're pretty sharp yourself, you know. I've admired you as well. I know that some of your struggles you've had with being an African American woman, and the struggles you had with your culture, especially with being a successful, educated black woman. And I know that's created struggles for you as well. So I'm not alone
nothing
in those. And you've given me great insight into your culture and the things that you struggle with that I have no knowledge of, except you've explained some of those things to me. And I appreciate that.
Yes. And I appreciate you, honey. So I'm going to go ahead and let you go and get started with your day. I'm going to go and refill my cup of coffee.
I'm trying to wake up.
And start my day. Yes, yes. Although I'm usually up this time of the morning, it's usually on my end, most of my effort goes into just getting the coffee in me and getting the computer turned on, let alone actually doing a show through it.
The one question is, should I step back so people in your audience can actually see what I'm wearing?
I wish you would.
Okay. So let's see. Let me come back to this a little bit.
Oh, I love that.
How does this look?
I love that.
So what I have on is I have what I have on is I have a boned corset on that I lace back as tight as I can get it, and then I wrap the cords around my waist to pull it a little tighter, and then the stretch pants that I have on, I just could not quite get them buttoned. So what I had to do is I had to try to tighten the corset just a little bit more so I can get the buttons down. And sitting in a chair can be very uncomfortable. So I've had to change my positions around to But that's
I
one thing
imagine.
that drives me in diet is I really want to, if I'm going to be out as Julie, I want to look good. And I always put a lot of emphasis into wearing, heels. And the only way to be able to walk in heels is you have to be in good shape, because it's actually
Yes.
a lot of work to be in heels, and it takes a lot of practice. So if you can lean your weight out, you can improve your presentation, and also you have more mobility. And this is one of the well, I probably don't want to go any further than that, but uh, I'll go ahead and tell you this. My wife is the polar opposite of that, and being, honestly, I have to admit this, is that being Julie and being thin and being able to wear heels is a protest to my wife being overweight. And that's
Ah,
that is an issue, because sometimes I have so much insight into this whole area is because it's a feeding cycle, that when someone gets overweight, they don't feel as good about themselves, which means they withdraw more, and which means they might find comfort in food, which makes it harder, which means they have less mobility, which means they feel worse about themselves. And I've noticed that when I go to the YMCA, I only see people that are in reasonably good shape, and the people that are
yes.
really out of
And
shape won't go to the places like that. And it's a cycle of
and you know what?
depression, and it shortens people's
Yes.
lives, and it's really, really tragic. So I have a deep appreciation for people that struggle with weight, because my wife has a big struggle with that, and I don't know how to help her. It's almost like you have to come to the conclusion of, I need to do something about this, I need to solve this, and it has to come from inside you to do that. And I think the
Right.
only thing I can do with my wife is try to let her know I accept you for who you are, but I need to find a way to express my concern and saying, do you realize that what you're doing is going to shorten your life? And it's already destroying your ability to interact with your children as much as you could, because you don't
Right.
have the mobility, and you might even find yourself in one of those electric wheelchairs if you
Yeah.
don't do something about it. But being
And
transgender and having that conflict means it's difficult to broach that topic, because immediately it goes back to, well, when are you going to solve your problems?
yes.
So when you have a stick in your eye and you're trying to point someone else's out, they're going to say, why are you talking about this when you haven't bothered to take that one out of your eye?
Right.
But that's one thing that I struggle with a lot in my marriage, is the fact that my wife is terribly overweight, and I worry that I contribute to it. But I also know that that's not fair, because you can't blame another person for the decisions you're making.
Right. And you've seen me through my struggles with weight. I was much heavier when you met me.
Wow.
And it's still a struggle. This holiday season hit me pretty hard. I'm still working off that pumpkin pie from Thanksgiving.
And
But
as I get older, it becomes more
it's
struggle for me as well.
yes, and you really have to start watching.
Yes.
And it's just so difficult. I can appreciate her struggle as well, because it's hard enough, and especially when you're dealing with issues of weight, small failures seem like huge hurdles to cross, when in retrospect they're not. But especially when you're dealing with self-image, sometimes it's just easier to just not look and not think about it.
I, I probably should. We probably should wrap this up, because I do have a day to start. So.
Yes, honey. All righty.
God bless
Well,
you.
everyone, this is, God bless you too, darling. This is Miss